At midnight, Princess Anne allegedly walked into Queen Camilla's private quarters, dropped a 60-page dossier on the table, and told her she was finished running the Windsor estate. Here's the part that should stop you cold. According to reports, the king had already signed off on it before that meeting even started. He'd allegedly signed an order handing his own sister temporary absolute authority over Windsor operations, then sat alone in his study while she carried out the takeover herself. That's not a family argument. That's a coup with paperwork, and by the time anyone else found out, it was already finished. So how did it get here? Sources say it started weeks earlier, when Anne heard whispers about a new experimental approach to leases across the Windsor estate. Instead of raising it in a meeting, she reportedly went straight to the records room at dawn, alone with a thermos of tea, and began cross-referencing 19th century land deeds against the current contracts, while everyone else was still having quiet conversations in the corridors. What she allegedly found was the real problem. Camilla's office had apparently been quietly reclassifying historic sections of the estate as commercial assets. That might sound like harmless paperwork, but it isn't. Heritage-protected property comes with layers of oversight, preservation standards, committees, approval chains, all built for one reason: to stop anyone from making unilateral decisions about protected land. Reclassify that same land as commercial, and those protections simply vanish. Suddenly, a small, hand-picked group could approve leases and contractors with almost no scrutiny at all. And that's the part that doesn't hold up as modernization. Real modernization doesn't need to strip away oversight to function. The deeper Anne dug, reports suggest, the worse it looked. Verbal agreements allegedly being treated as binding contracts, with no paper trail behind any of them. If those changes were genuinely good for the institution, they'd have gone through the Privy Council in the open. Instead, according to insiders, they were handshake deals that could never survive being looked at directly. Then came Royal Lodge. Publicly, the story was about Andrew and rising maintenance costs. Privately, Anne is said to have found something else entirely. The Queen's office quietly granting unauthorized rent concessions, allegedly trying to make an embarrassing situation disappear without going anywhere near the oversight committees. It may have looked efficient, but the moment Crown property becomes a private bargaining chip in one deal, every other arrangement is suddenly open to question. Legitimacy was never about convenient outcomes. It's about the process behind them. So Anne allegedly built her case. 60 annotated pages, original land grants placed side by side with the altered contracts, proof that quiet changes to maintenance terms were bypassing committees that had existed for generations. She reportedly hand-delivered it to the Queen's private secretary and gave her 48 hours to respond. Not a request, an order, with a deadline attached. According to palace sources, Camilla's team went into panic within the first 10 pages. Not because of gossip, but because they couldn't refute a single document. The original charter said one thing, the new contract said another, and there was no trail explaining how they got from one to the other. That's not a disagreement about tradition versus progress. That's the kind of administrative failure any compliance officer would spot instantly. And reportedly, it was entirely avoidable. Had those changes gone through proper channels from day one, slow as that process is, there would have been a real defense. Instead, the whole thing is said to have unraveled the moment someone actually pulled the thread. This is where two philosophies allegedly collided. Anne is said to view Windsor as a trust that belongs to the institution itself, not a portfolio to be optimized for returns. Camilla's team reportedly saw it differently: empty cottages as wasted opportunity, event spaces and modern leases as smart, overdue strategy. That's not an unreasonable instinct on its own. The problem was never wanting to modernize. It's that they allegedly tried to do it by rooting around the very safeguards built to stop short-term decisions from damaging long-term assets. Here's the piece almost nobody's talking about. The king's role in all of this is genuinely hard to read, and that may be by design. He's the one who reportedly signed the order, stripping his own wife of administrative control, a direct reversal of her entire approach, and only after personally reviewing Anne's evidence himself. Then, according to staff, he said nothing at all. No public statement, no attempt to mediate. He signed and stepped back from the process completely. Some older courtiers are said to believe this was deliberate, letting Anne absorb the political cost of the cleanup, so he never had to publicly pick a side. Cold calculation, or a man who genuinely couldn't see another way through without losing his marriage entirely. Possibly both. What followed, according to multiple accounts, was less a transition and more a seizure. By morning, the administrative wing was reportedly cordoned off. Security brought in were veterans from the late Queen's era, loyal to the traditional structure rather than the current office. Digital booking systems were allegedly shut down overnight and replaced with paper ledgers. Files were pulled off the cloud and moved into physical storage. Rooms were swept for listening devices. Camilla's staff were reportedly given until the end of the day to clear personal items under supervision. No laptops, no files, nothing allowed to leave the building. Within 48 hours, the modern art was gone, and the open-plan desks were replaced with heavy traditional furniture. It wasn't just a policy reversal. It was the aesthetic being erased entirely, so no one could mistake it for business as usual. Camilla is now said to be in a strange suspended state, still queen, still carrying out public duties, but reportedly unable to manage her own schedule or staff without going through Anne's people first. Insiders have allegedly called it administrative house arrest. She's still inside the castle. She's just cut off from the machinery of her own office. And here's the detail that turns this from office politics into something closer to a historical drama. The final page of Anne's dossier wasn't an argument at all. It was allegedly a signed royal order, already granting her sister-in-law absolute authority, dated before that midnight meeting even began. Anne didn't walk in to negotiate. She walked in to notify. The decision had already been made. Camilla was simply being informed of her own demotion, calmly, without debate, without a word about theories of modernization. Just a statement that the king had reviewed the risk and chosen the institution's stability over his wife's vision for it. The terms were reportedly absolute, direct control of the estate gone immediately. Every project she'd launched placed under a review committee led by Anne herself. Archive access for her private staff revoked. And the final line is the one that made it unbreakable. Any further attempt to bypass the new council, and the entire dossier goes public. Not a threat, a guarantee that resistance was no longer possible, because fighting back would mean torching the exact reputation Camilla had spent years building. Sit with what that actually means for a second. It's not just losing a power struggle. It's allegedly your own husband looking at your work, deciding it's dangerous enough to require intervention, and handing control to the person who exposed you. That's not the kind of disagreement anyone recovers from by the following week. What this reportedly reveals about power inside the institution is the real story. Anne is said to have built an entire case, secured the king's signature, and executed a full takeover before anyone outside the inner circle even realized it was happening, a level of operational precision most corporate boards would envy. Meanwhile, staff reportedly describe the king differently now. Longer hours staring out at the grounds, fewer public appearances. A man who technically owns everything, and according to insiders, controls almost none of it inside his own home anymore. He kept the throne. He may have lost the quiet life he actually wanted in exchange for it. So was this good for the institution? On one side, Anne allegedly shut down a real structural risk before informal leases and quiet reclassifications could explode into an actual public scandal. She spotted the threat and neutralized it early. On the other side, Camilla is now a queen who was, according to multiple sources, very publicly outmaneuvered by her own sister-in-law with her husband's signature on the order that made it official. That's not something anyone simply moves past, and every public appearance from here reportedly carries that undertone. Power has shifted back to the traditionalist wing, decisively. The digital systems are gone. The modern art is in storage. The outside contractors have reportedly been dismissed, and Windsor is said to be back in the hands of the person who knows its history better than anyone else alive. Whether that makes the institution stronger or simply more resistant to change it may eventually need is the question hanging over everything that comes next. Long. What's clear is that the era of quiet disagreement is allegedly over. Anne didn't just win an argument, She's said to have dismantled an entire administrative structure and rebuilt it with her own people, using the institution's own rules to trap the very people who tried to bend them. By the time anyone outside the inner circle understood what was happening, it was already done. The midnight meeting wasn't the climax, it was the victory lap. The real fight happened earlier, quietly, in an archive, inside a dossier, and in the moment, the king reportedly looked at the evidence and signed his name. This was never really about leases or maintenance costs. It's about whether an institution built on continuity can survive being modernized without breaking apart from the inside. And right now, according to those close to the family, the person who believes those foundations are non-negotiable is the one holding every key.